Hi, my name is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden, and this is the Subconscious Dialogues. I have been on this massive goal lately on just focusing on emotions, and it keeps coming back to emotions. And I think I'm just finally at that stage where I've been juggling all of these different aspects of the garden. Things are starting to finally settle down. And now that they're settled, I can really start to sit back and enjoy what I want to enjoy. And one of the things that I'm absolutely adoring is emotions. And it's because emotions, of everything I studied, was the thing that really it surprised me a lot. So in this particular video, I'm going to step back and discuss. Basically, I'm going to introduce a different way of looking at emotions. And if you're not new, if you go through my material, all my podcasts, you'll notice that I talk a lot on emotions, and they're on a spectrum. Now, prior to this, there is something on the internet you can get that's an emotional wheel. And the problem with this is it presents the fact that there's like 9 or 12 or 5 basic emotions. And that's where things really start to get complicated. And I am going to quote Sir Isaac Newton so many times that truth is in simplicity. If it's complicated, it's because you haven't figured it out yet. And that's the problem is in modern psychology is when you dive into emotions, it's complicated, and it shouldn't be. It's as clear, as concise, and as simple as physics. It's really just a beautiful, this is how it is. So with emotions, there are basically two emotions. There are only two emotions. There is love and fear. And you are either speaking out of love or you are speaking out of fear. And that's pretty much it. Every other emotion revolves around those two emotions. Every one of them. Every one of them. I have been through them all. When you are producing a cognitive core, you desire love and outcome with your perspective. You want love, a future, a very particular way for things to go. So when you receive data and information in the form of a belief that goes into your cognitive core, then it's going to shift your perspective either towards something you want, love, or don't want, fear. You are going to then act accordingly. You are going to be happy and joyful because you're acting out of love, or you're going to become afraid because you now are entering something that I call entertaining improbable fictions. Improbable fictions is when your imagination starts to hypothesize what could go wrong, what your future might look like that you don't want. And now enters fear. Now enters the down slope of the higher or lower vibrations where you are resisting and you are afraid of what that is going to be like. So you tend to gravitate more toward living and making choices to prevent something from happening, as opposed to living and making choices out of love and celebration of what you already have. So everything from that point on is now divvied among these two emotions. Guilt is part of fear. Hatred is part of love. Anger is part of love. That's self-love. That's self-defense. And it's extraordinary to see how basically every emotion has either a negative charge, a positive charge, and they work off of polar opposites of each other. And my favorite example of this is humility and self-value or self-importance, which one is very negative, very negative charge. The other is very positive charge. And when you bring them together, they become neutral. And when they become neutral, they cancel each other out. And you have a very beautiful positive balance. Absolutely beautiful. You need both sides of the spectrum to balance it out. And in the case of fear and love, you cannot have one at the same time. They cannot coexist. So as the more fear produces, the more love basically is diminished and gets out of the way. Fear continues to grow and it cultivates. So you have to consciously and mindfully shrink down fear and nurture love. That way the balance doesn't get out of hand. And then so in addition to the spectrums of emotions, I also noticed that, and I've talked about this in previous videos, there are 4 particular sources where our emotions come from. They either come from the cognitive core and its processing, and that is the process of us shifting our perspective around new beliefs. Or we have emotions that come from our fear center. We have emotions that come from our love center, our identity. And this is where I kind of clump in the defense system and also intuition in with that. And then we have emotions that come out of our guilt system. And our guilt system is also linked, not exactly the same thing, that's a cousin to the fear system. So once you understand how these four systems basically function and which emotions come out of which center, you'll know exactly which kind of action you need to take to diminish each and every emotion. That way you can calm it down. And there are only four answers here. There's only four ways you can process an emotion. And that's really it. Every emotion that comes to you has four different options. Is this an emotion that requires soothing and reassurance? Is this an emotion that requires celebration and focus? Is this an emotion that requires total dismissal and being thrown out? Or is this an emotion that requires cognitive awareness while you work out your belief system and your perspective? And depending upon which one of these four you focus on, which four of these sources is giving you input and data, tells you how you need to address it. So that's pretty much the core of how I focus on emotions. And then from there, I break down compound emotions, which is there's primary emotions, which is your fear and your love, and then there's compound emotions. And a compound emotion is when you have an emotion that is created when you have two or more emotions mix in. Jealousy is one of my favorite emotions. It is a fear-based compound emotion, which means it's 100% out of fear, and it is only in existence when you have three particular other emotions that come together. Those emotions are neglect, insecurity, and fear. And when you have those three things come together, not just fear, not just insecurity, it's a combination of insecurity, fear, and neglect. When you have those three things come together, jealousy is what produces. Jealousy is completely different than envy. Completely different than envy. So it was really interesting as I got into the world of emotions, how much they moved and shifted off of this spectrum, this emotional spectrum. Another one that I loved was comfort versus pain. And with comfort, there's like, that was the other thing. Well, first I'll explain this is there's comfort and then there's discomfort, and that's your growth zone. And then there's pain, and then you have fear. And it's interesting because this also goes parallel with adventuring and also the unknown. And then you with fear you get into the dark abyss, where you're in the area of you don't know, you are afraid. And if you're able to come back to your comfort zone and reassure yourself, you're fine. But if you can't and you're stuck there, in most cases this is where trauma happens. It does a subdivide and creates a new timeline, and then you have the rewiring of your nervous system when fear activates your trauma centers and now your mental illness, which is basically an adaptation program. Mental illness is nothing more than just an adaptation program so you can adapt to the situation that's terrifying. Because at some point you receive the message, your subconscious mind received the message that this is not safe. Then when it reads that it's not safe, it immediately plugs this in instead. So it's really interesting how it all comes together. I'm having one of those days where I don't want to talk, but I do want to talk. Like I want to talk a lot. I have a lot to say, but I don't think I really want to talk about anything heavy or deep. I don't think I want to talk about anything substantial. And I think that's where I'm running into it is I want to talk. I want to converse. I want to connect. But and this is why I'm in subconscious dialogues right now and not shifting perspectives, is because this allows me the safe space where I can really sit down and self-reflect. And I've been it's been quite a journey. It's been quite an exploration getting to this point. And then when you get here, you're just in this place of how do I want to be? Who do I want to be? What do I want to embrace? And I went through a stage where I felt divine. And then I felt isolated and elevated, and I didn't like it. So it's not that, how do I explain it? It's a feeling of, well, I'll just say it. It's pretentious. And I'm in a field where there's psychology and the science, and then there's healers, and they talk about awakening. And I don't at all like the word awakened. There is this massive movement of this awakening that's happening. And I really hate the word because it breeds pretentiousness. It breeds prestige and something I call passive passive arrogance. That's really it. It's passive arrogance. It's that they're being arrogant without being arrogant. And it's a whole nother level of just being pretentious. And I don't like it. And I've run into it a lot this last week where I'm definitely it's funny because I see it in somebody. I have a conversation and then I pull back from the conversation and say, mental note to self, I don't want to be like that. And so I make myself more, well, human. I purposely swear, not on purpose, but it's myself. It's who I am. It's authentic. I'm not going to stop swearing because it's not righteous. It's not that. It's if I'm a swearer, then I swear, and I'm a swearer. It's one of those things where, and I wrote this when I wrote Broken. I had this whole section in Broken. It's so funny because, well, I'll go and get into it, but there's this whole section in Broken in the very beginning when I wrote, how are you with swearing? And the other character in the book is like, I'm fine with it. And she's like, good, because if I'm telling this, I'm going to tell it my way. And the reason why I wrote those words was because up until that point, you don't swear in books. You don't swear in books. And I went into this massive sitting down and talking with everybody about it. Do you or do you not swear in books? And after 3 years of hardcore author debate, author, editor, publisher arguments on whether or not you should swear in books, this was the final consensus. Only if the character's character swears do you get to swear. The author is not allowed to swear under any circumstance. If it is in first person point of view where the character is talking and the character is a swearing character, yes. But if it's third person point of view and you're omniscient, you had better not be dropping a single swear word. Got it. And that was like the rule. And after pulling this apart for 3 years, it became very clear you do not put a swear word on the written page. Now, a character can like the word fuck, and that person can walk around through the whole book saying fuck. A great example of this is The Last of Us, the actress who walks around, the kid who walks around swearing all the time, to the point where, to be honest with you, I'm getting to a point where I'm sick of hearing the show. I'm sick of watching the show because this kid drops the word fuck way too much. And I'm at a point where I'm like, all right, even for me, I'm tapped out. Like, I'm all done with hearing this kid swear. And this is why it's such a very delicate position, is whether or not swearing should or shouldn't be involved in it. Should or shouldn't perspectives, right? And for me, if I weren't to swear, it would be inauthentic. But more specifically, when I sat down and I wrote Broken, because of the topic in Broken, there is no fucking way you can talk about the subject matters that I was talking about in Broken and not swear. There's just no way. And I was afraid that if I censored myself as far as the language goes and the vernacular and how I was going to swear or not swear, it would censor my ability to tell that story. And that was a big problem for me, that I could not afford to censor my telling of that story. And if I were to be consciously aware of swearing while I told that story, it would have changed the story. So I presented in this one particular passage in Broken in the very beginning. And it's funny because there's no swearing right up to this point, where she says, how's your tolerance for swearing? Because I'm not telling the story without it. And it was my way of being able to say to the reader, I'm going to swear. I'm going to say it this way. And if I try and censor my swearing, you're not going to get the story. I have to just tell it my way. And my way involves swearing. So I swore. And I told my story authentically. And that's really where I am now is I see these people who are mindful about the language they use and making sure that, and it's very funny because it's very six-stage perspective, being mindful that not everybody likes swearing. So I'm going to make sure I censor myself. And that is where slavery begins. It's right there. When you start changing who you are to accommodate other people, now I have a problem. Authentic living at the core is who you are. And if you have to change who you are to accommodate other people, it's not going to work. I am not that person. I swear, if you have a problem with that, you're not going to get along with me, because I'm not the kind of person to watch my language or clean it up, because that's not who I am. And when I crossed over to the eighth stage perspective, I was really expecting this righteousness, this, oh, well, now that you're here, you're not allowed to swear anymore. And I've decided not to be that person. I decided I'm not going to be any different than who I already have established who I am. That doesn't change. Identity doesn't change when you go through the perspectives. Only your ethics change when you go through the perspectives. And the difference between perspective 6 and perspective 5 is perspective 6 is suddenly very mindful. It's another extreme. It's another extreme. They're suddenly very mindful about how their actions affect everybody else. So they go to the extreme of, oh, I have to be mindful of everybody. But that takes a toll on you, because that's when you start becoming, well, a doormat. That's when you start becoming over precautious for everybody, and it drains you. Unless it's who you really are, it's going to drain you. When you get out of perspective 3 and you get into perspective 4 goes extreme. Perspective 3 was extreme. Perspective 3 went all the way independent, so that they rubber banded and snapped back to perspective 4 with all the rules, because that's the way the ball swings. So with perspective 1, you're here, perspective 2, you're here, and then perspective 3, you go all the way over here, and you're going to snap back over here with perspective 4. And then perspective 5, you're here. Perspective 6, you're over here. Perspective 7, you're over here. Perspective 8, you're back here. See how that's doing this? So perspective 6 is an extreme to perspective 7 that's coming. Perspective 7 is the fallback. And then 8, you stabilize. So it's like extreme positive, extreme negative, in between, transition. So right now I'm in that transition. And I have a couple people who I'm talking to, and they're at 6. So they're extreme righteous, extreme pious, extreme, oh, I'm awakened now, I have to behave like the world. Just wait till you get to stage 7. Wait till you get to stage 7. You'll be cured of that. And then they'll go the other side, and then they'll be like, oh, well, screw everybody else. I need to start thinking about myself. There's a balance. There's a balance. And that's really what you're doing at stages 6 and 7, is you're trying to figure out that balance. At stage 6, it's all about everybody else. At stage 7, it's all about you again. At stage 8, you figure out how to have both. And that's it really. Stage 3, it's all about you. Stage 4, it's all about the rules. Stage 5, it's about having both. Stage 6, it's about the ethics with everybody. Stage 7, it's about the ethics with you. And stage 8, it's about having both. And yeah, that's when you kind of calm down. And it's interesting because I know based on that pattern that stage 9 is going to be this, and stage 10 is going to be this, and stage 12 is going to be this. It's going to be that, because that's the pattern. That's how we go through this. That it's an extreme and then an extreme, and then we figure out how to do the balance of both. And that's interesting because between 6 and 7, it's the ethics. Between 3 and 4, it's the independent of the self. It's the self-law versus community law. Self-ethic versus community ethic. So I'm really curious to see what the next one is. Okay, we've got the law down. Now we've got the ethic down. What's next? I'm really curious to see what's next. And then things settled. And then the delusion diminished. And things really got comfortable in their spot, and everything felt good. And it's funny because I have a very good friend of mine, and she's very wealthy. She's very, very successful. She's famous. And now she's getting to that point where the older she gets, the more raunchy she gets. And I love it because you expect her to be pretentious and you expect her to be everything that people expect people to be. And she's not. She's down to earth. She swears. She makes jokes about poop like she's 5, and it's awesome. And I love her to pieces. And in that sense, she's very much my role model because I'm going, that's keeping it real. And here's the thing that really just rubs me the wrong way. Christ has tantrums. Christ threw tantrums. He was violent. Read the Bible. Christ cried, complained, whined. He threw things. He was violent. He screamed. Christ was not pure, and he sure as fuck wasn't perfect. So I'm looking at him going, Christ had a tantrum in a temple and he threw shit. And no one sits there and questions this. No one asks why Christ, supposedly perfect and pure, is having an emotional meltdown. Like every Christian I've spoken to completely has a blind eye to that moment. And it drove me in crazy when I was in church. I'm going, does anyone else see that this is anyone? Like, it was amazing, the blinders. They were so oblivious. The thing they don't want to talk about. Hey, your perfect, pure Christ is throwing a toddler-sized tantrum in a temple. We're not going to talk about that? It means he was human. That's what it means. It means that he was human, because that's a fuck human emotion if I've ever seen one. So yeah. And it's things like that yeah, it really hits home with me. I judge people. I keep it to myself, though. I do. I have my ethics. I can also see their perspective, and I know what's good for me. And just because I'm at stage 8 doesn't mean I'm not going to be quiet and silent, and I'm going to say that's not going to correspond with my ethics. I respect you for having yours. Have yours. It's not going to work for me. And it's this expectation of, oh, you're so righteous and holy, and I'm not getting that. I won't allow people to think that of me. And I'm watching my coworkers, I'm watching my peers go through it. And it's a very, very definitive reminder that I don't want to end up like that. And that's really it. Humble bragging. That's what it's called. Humble bragging. Stephen Fry did that. He was tweeting at the airport, oh my God, there's so many people here asking for my photograph and my autograph, and I'm hoping I won't miss my flight. And it's called humble bragging. And I've seen it like 2 or 3 times this week from people where, yeah, it's humble bragging. And it caused me to want to poke at it and explore the emotion. I'm first and foremost a psychologist. Absolutely. I got to poke at this. Oh, look, a new emotion. So it's exploring this new emotion a lot. And I've never seen it before. So it's intriguing to me. I guess I've seen it. I just didn't have the education and the articulation at the time to articulate what it was that I was looking at. And now that I am, I'm going, oh, that's what that is that I'm seeing. So yeah, it's really, I'm in this wonderful place today. Really, it's this wonderful, secure place of just things are settling down. I'm seeing everything come into alignment. I have a communications class tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. I have my workshops coming up, my masterclass coming up on the 14th. I have everything aligned and ready to go for that. I have the outline ready to go. I'm so excited about that. And I'm at this point every day. This is huge. Every day I take time out for me, where like 3 times a day, first thing in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I do a siesta where around anywhere from 12 to 2 o'clock, I shut everything down and I just take a huge step back and I'm like, all right, this is going to be me time. I bake, I meditate, I get high, and I eat, and then I just meditate. I manifest and I focus on what my goals are because it is so easy to lose sight of your goals. And it doesn't matter who you are. I think this is something that really it doesn't change. This is a fact of life, no matter who you are. That if you don't keep reminding yourself what your goals are, you're going to forget them because they're not real yet. They're not tangible in front of you. They only exist in your mind for a time. And if you don't work at them to remind yourself that they're there every single day, you're going to lose sight of them. You have to consciously keep your goals and your dreams in your line of view. And people think, well, that's just a healing thing. Some people don't even use it for their healing, which is why they fail. Some people only use it for wanting to achieve goals and then they stop. Some people will do it for a project. Some people will do it for weight loss and then they'll quit. You think it's something that you're going to just do on occasion. And that's the difference between being wealthy and being poor, is poor people never do it. Wealthy people, they know everyone has to do it every single day. And that's the difference. You have to visualize where you want to be every day. You have to do it in the morning when you wake up. You have to take out a 2-hour siesta every day just to focus on the dream that is just existing in your head. To remind yourself why you're doing this and what your goal is. And then you have to do it and you have to think about it every night before you go to bed. And it's not just part of healing, and it's not just part of a lifestyle, and it's not just part of being rich, and it's not just part. It is no matter who you are. If you want to go from A to a place that doesn't exist yet, you have to consciously invest time and space into imagining where it is you want to go. That's what manifestation is. That's why they tell you 3-6-9. 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, 9 times at night. That's what you're really doing, is you're just imagining your end goal. And you're reminding yourself that you have an end goal. It's not manifestation. It's called millionaire visions. It's called thinking rich, or the millionaire mindset, or having a healing journey plan. That's really what it is. And we're not being honest about what we're calling it. So people who don't get it are going nowhere. And they're going, I don't understand why I'm not succeeding. I don't understand why my life goes nowhere. Well, you're not visioning anything different. And because you're not putting it in front of you in a corporeal sense, you're not going to have it in front of you any other sense because it isn't real yet. So you have to start off by putting it real in your mind. You have to remind yourself consciously every day where it is you want to go. So every afternoon between 12 and 2, I get done recording and I step back and I went, all right, I think I'm done for the day. I've done my podcasts. I've spouted out on my soapbox. I feel great because I've been vocalized and I feel heard. I feel seen. I feel validated. I'm really freaking awesome when it comes to my points of views and perspectives. And I don't need anyone else to think that. I think that, and that's what's important because that's authentic and genuine. Yeah. And I hope like fuck everyone learns these lessons because I want everyone to be like that too. But I don't want everyone to be like me with my ideas and opinions. I want everyone to be like me in the sense that they have this kind of confidence and this kind of authenticity and genuity. And you don't get that unless you heal, unless you know your shit. So go buy my master class. It's 98% off for the next 10 days. So yeah. I'm just here on a Friday, and it's the first Friday I'm not scrambling. It's the first Friday, I have to clarify, it's the first Friday in a year that I'm not scrambling and pulling out my hair and freaking out and going, oh my God, how am I going to do X? Where am I going to get Y? What will I do with B? It's just all set up. There's nothing I have to do anymore except just be me. And I went, you know what I want? Merchandise. I want merchandise. I'm going to create a cafe pressed store and I'm going to put my anisms on them. I have anisms now. Anisms. Anisms. An anism is one of my comments that I make in these YouTube videos that really sound awesome. And I went, I need to put that on a mug. That's an anism. I have many anisms. So yeah, I'm going to start collecting all my anisms and I'm going to start putting them on coffee mugs so you can go get my anisms on coffee mugs. It's going to be awesome. So I'm in the process of doing that now. And I love it. It's like, yes, I want this. I love this. So yeah, that's what it feels like. That's what all of this feels like. And I feel like this wave has been building and building, and it's still building, but it's about to come crashing down in all the great ways I could imagine it coming down. And I'm just going to ride it all the way down. And I'm just looking forward to it. So I'm going to end this podcast, drink my coffee, work on some marketing while I watch Doctor Who and say, yes, yes, this is my life. This is exactly what I wanted in life. And then I'm going to meditate and manifest on where my end goal is and where I see myself and what I want. And then I'm going to put together my classes so I can teach you how to do this. Because this is extraordinary living. That's what it is. See, that's an anism, extraordinary living. And that's it. And I started to think about, okay, where do I want to do my getaway resorts next year? Where am I going to put these things? Because I'm thinking May, June, definitely in June and July, probably July. And I'm thinking, how many do I want to do every year? Do I want to do 2? Do I want to do 3? So that's coming, my getaway resorts. I am so excited. It's going to be like 7 to 10 days of I'm probably going to start off with a 4-day weekend. And then I'm going to do, and I'm going to do like Labor Day weekend. And oh yes, definitely. I am so excited about this. And it's going to be basically all of the things that I do. It's going to be workshops. It's going to be meditation. It's going to be psychedelics. And it's all of it thrown together, focused on energy healing, Reiki healing. I want to bring in some yoga studios. And it's an all-encompassing, this is the itinerary. These are all the workshops. This is everywhere you can go. This is what we're going to be doing. And yeah. So that's coming. Subscribe to my newsletter. And I am doing healing getaway resorts. I'm going to start in New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. And then I'm going to go Sri Lanka, Caribbean, and Colombia. So I want to go to Spain at one point. I want to go to Norway. Norway is phenomenal for something like this. Norway is extraordinary for something like this. And yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Really looking forward to that. So those are several of the things that I have pending. And it's just this massive, really, really enjoying it. Really. Manifestation. I really want to dig into it, and I'm going to. And I think that's it. There's a lot of people who are, it's interesting because manifestation, the way I see it is it's physics. And then there's people who are going, no, it's faith and it's praying and it's spiritual. And then I'm going, actually, it's quite psychological. Once you understand how alignment works in the mind with the subconsciousness and with the energy pool and with physics, it makes perfect sense. If you understand how karma actually works in relationship to physics and psychology, and where everyone is right. Everyone is right. But the reason why we're right is actually wrong. And this is the funny thing is we're right, but not for the reasons we think we're right. And that's it. We are right, but not for the reasons we think we're right. And the more I delve into manifestation, the more I'm just going, yeah, it's absolutely the alignment. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a magnetism. It's just the way the magnets work. It's like saying, this is it exactly. I'm going to give you a crash course on manifestation. So you have 2 magnets and they're drawn to each other because they have to be aligned. So they're drawn to each other. And The spiritual manifester will take the two magnets and pull it away, and they will say things like, I believe that these two things will magnetize and this will come to fruition. And so they pray on it and they focus on it. And then when they release the magnet goes floop, and they go, see, I told you. That's faith. And the physicist is over here going, well, actually, that's physics. That's just magnetism. And that's just, you pull them apart and they're going to have to go back together because they're drawn to each other. And the psychologist is going, actually, it's an alignment. They have to be aligned. And the energy will do anything to make sure that everything is balanced and aligned, which is actually what karma is when you take out of the karma pool, then the energy will go, well, no, I need a balance. Sorry, taking that back. And they'll take something back. Now, it isn't punishment. That's not karma. It's not the universe getting back at you. That is your fourth perspective mentality of vengeance. No, it is just the universe going, crap, you took, I have to give because there's a hole now. Let's just align this. So if you take out and there's a deficit, then you're going to have things taken away to make it for the positive. If you give, then the universe has to give back to make sure that the balance remains aligned. There is no motive behind this. There is no karma coming to get you because you were a bad person and you're going to be punished. It's just the universe going, yeah, no, I'm not comfortable unless everything is on the same frequency. So says the energy pool. So the energy is moving everybody and shifting them around to make sure that everything is aligned and balanced at all times. And it's the interpretation is where really things come into this, is where the spiritual people, the faith, will then turn around and say, well, it's because of, and they'll interpret it with a faith or a spiritual meaning, where the physicist, will give you information and show you the facts and break it all down using mathematics. And the psychologist will use philosophy. Well, this psychologist uses philosophy to sit down and show you, well, no, it's the alignment. And it's not good or bad. Bad people, once they understand this, can easily manipulate and pull. Actually, they can't, because bad people have to do this out of love, because love is a positive energy. And if you constantly take with a negative energy, then the universe is going to compensate and pull it back, giving you more negative energy to make sure you have that. So unless you are actually doing things out of love, you're not going to see this. I love how the universe worked that out so much, so much. I have no idea if I manifested this or if that's just the way it turned out. Because before I figured this out, I did manifest that. And then it turned out to be that way. And now I have the unending question of, was it always this way? Or did I manifest it to be this way? And I don't know the answer to that. And I kind of don't care. It's just funny to me because I'm still sitting here going, did I manifest this or was it always this way? And I don't know. So that's hanging out there, and I just don't know. So, but either way, right now it's not possible for somebody who is doing this out of fear to do it. If you are coming from a place of selfishness and fear, you can't use this power. You have to be coming from a genuine place of love. And if you're not coming from a genuine place of love, it's not going to work for you. Not the way you want it to, because you're not going to get something positive when you're taking negative. You take negative, you're going to get negative. You have to take positive. You have to give positive to get positive. But if you take, you are pulling negative, you're going to get negative. It's all about, again, that negative positive charge. It's extraordinary. So I'm going to shut it down here and ponder more on the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. Yeah, I think I'm going to tweak my company a little bit more because I'm still not certain. I have a lot of podcasts. I have like 3 podcasts, and I have a lot of, like, I have Psych Soup. I have the Subconscious Dialogues. I have the 8th Perspective now, which is actually my Light Workers Union podcast, which I love. And that's probably what I'm going to do tomorrow, is talk about manifestation. I'm going to talk about light work. And I think that's it. I'm going to organize this a lot more, because I want to organize, like, all my manifestation talk is going to be focused on light works. Yeah. No, it's really coming together. And I think that's the other thing, is because I'm in the early stages of the company. I'm in a place where I can communicate all of this and I can show it to you, and I can be like, okay, this is the next building block I'm putting into place. This is what's coming. And I'm just so excited because I am building something so much bigger. And it's like, I'm very excited to see it's finally starting to come together. And I know it's going to be another year out when all the pieces come into place. And this is just like 1 year goal. So the getaways are one thing. Subscribe to my newsletter. Absolutely subscribe to the newsletter. And I have a gratitude sale happening right now, 98% off of all my master classes. And that includes my integration workshop, where it's a 24/7 workshop basically available to you. So you integrate everything you learn in my classes. That way you don't regress. So that is absolutely something else that I offer. So that's available until the 14th of August. Thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.